Hello and welcome to another episode of Chasing Excellence. My name is Patrick Cummings, and as always, I am here with Ben Bergeron. Every week on the show, we dedicate some time to exploring how we can live a life of better health and increased fulfillment. We answer your questions about the 5 factors of health, dive deep on living a life of excellence, and explore the strategies and frameworks to help us chase what truly matters. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. How you doing, Ben?
I'm doing good, Patrick.
Good. I want to start. You may have noticed I have my phone here. And it's for a very specific reason because I usually don't have it out.
You usually don't have it.
I usually have it, period. But I pulled it up.
It's actually the first time I've ever seen your phone. This is a true story. I've never seen your phone.
It's true.
I had no idea that you had a clear case.
I hate the clear case, but
I actually thought it did not fit you. It just I was startled by it.
Yes, I would prefer not have a case, but these are stupid, expensive little computers, and I have small children, so it's at some point you just got to play the game. But I'm doing it specifically. We had a listener, Rick. This just made me laugh, and I wanted to share it. He said, "Hello." He sent me a message on Instagram. "Been listening to a bunch to Chasing Excellence. How do I get you to stop saying unpack and Ben to stop saying 100%? Love the show." This made me laugh so hard. One, because I do say that a lot. And like, as soon as he says like, yeah, thank you for calling me out on it. But mostly I wanted to, I laughed at this because it was a wonderful little criticism sandwich that we haven't talked about in a long time. And I was like, he nailed it. He's like, been listening to a bunch. Nice thing to hear. Stop doing that thing that's annoying, criticism. And then love the show. Nice thing again. I was like, perfect. If somebody's going to point something out to me, doing a criticism sandwich. And yes,
to get rattled by the word unpacked.
Yes. Well, hey,
please, Patrick,
please, people, please. You know what? If anybody wants to send me a note about things we could do better, I'll take it. Even if it's stop saying that word. All right.
Let's unpack some stuff.
Let's unpack
100%, Patrick. Unpack. Let's do that.
Actually, what's funny is I don't think you say that very much.
That was a weird call.
I think he might be complaining about me twice without realizing it. We're gonna move on though. Outside of that, what we've got coming up in this episode, we've got listener questions about the gear everyday CrossFitter should or shouldn't use, overcoming mental limitations that we put on ourselves in the gym, how to eat during a 24-hour burpee marathon, and more. Our workout's going to be a listener question about figuring out the difference between when to embrace struggle and when to take it as a sign that we should reassess what we are doing. And then we're gonna wrap this episode up with something kind of special, something kind of cool. We had a listener send us a voice memo, and we're just gonna
stay to the end. Like right. That, it's one of the cooler things I have ever received.
Yes, as have I. So I concur. And before we get into our warm-up, just a reminder, we are in the midst of a 30-day challenge. We are working hard to spend 50% less time on our social channel of choice.
Okay, so I know we don't touch this to the end. So I'm going to be honest. Like, it's top of mind every time I want to open up Instagram. But I'm also like, well, I just have to be good for the last 10 days because that's the only thing it records.
Because it takes the average of the 10 days.
Yeah. So I feel like we should report on this every week along the way.
I have been looking at it, so maybe make a note at the end of every week.
I have not. Okay. So we need to start next week.
Cool. All right. Good enough. And that's funny that you...
Because otherwise I'm going to hack it. It's like I'm going to start a diet a week from Monday, so I'm going to overfill right now just because I know... Yeah.
All right. Our warm-up, we start each episode with your questions about the 5 factors of health, those few fundamental behaviors that most positively affect our performance, vitality, and longevity. Those 5 factors: how we eat, how we move, how we think, connect, and how we recover. As we always do, we shall jump into the move category. Do you think that things like grips, lifting belts, chalk, etc. are a positive addition for an everyday CrossFitter? Would you encourage people to train with or without them?
I would encourage people to train without them. What we're doing in the gym is to improve our performance outside of the gym. Those things that we're talking about there will improve your performance inside of the gym, but unless before you help your friend pick up the couch, you're going to change into your Olympic lifting shoes.
Or grab your lifting belt, which maybe the lifting belt, I've seen people do that.
So the answer is no. And that's really the reason why. To the point where early on, when that's what, before the real sport of CrossFit, when it was CrossFit, the GPP program, if you look back at some of the super old videos that we put up, I'm barefoot in a lot of them, which is the way we used to train a lot, right? And there's upsides to that. So yeah, the answer is go more and more raw. So yeah, that's it. I would now if we're talking about working on the 1, 2 to 3 to 5% that's going to improve your performance at these actual things, there's a reason that these things exist, and they can do that. But they will not help. Now we're talking like third wave adaptations, meaning that they're specific to the actual endeavor. It's going to get you better at a deadlift. It's not going to get you better at picking up the couch. We want the second wave adaptations, which are basically the things that we're training in the gym so that they help us in things outside the gym. Mm-hmm. So the answer is no, don't suggest them for the everyday CrossFitter.
Yep. Would you include chalk in that just because it's in this question? Would you, or is chalk kind of like
a weird, funny one? Yeah. I stay away from chalk until absolutely 100% necessary. And to kind of put that in perspective, I probably grab chalk maybe 10 times a year. And I'm doing 2 Metcons a day. Yep. Right. And so I try to do as little as possible. And that's when we're doing something like, huge big sets of pull-ups, and it's 95 degrees out, and the bar is just like, and I might grab it there.
Got it. Yep. Okay, cool. Next question is in our think category, and it's from Haley. I am 43 and I've been doing CrossFit for almost 3 years. I know my performance always flounders as soon as a coach starts watching, or as soon as I get to a number in my head that I've labeled as quote unquote a max for me. How do I overcome the mental limitations I've imposed on myself? It feels impossible.
Cool. You're farther along than probably you're giving yourself credit for. Is that the fact that you're recognizing this and you're going, this is really hard. Mm-hmm. What's happening is when you're going to perform best in a flow state, right? And a flow state is a state of non-judgment. You're just literally letting your best come out of you, and there's no artificial ceilings, constraints, or distractions. When the coach comes over, or you creep up towards your 1 rep max numbers, you're getting distraction, and there's a narrative in your head that's distracting you away from your performance. This is the work now that you're aware that there's limitation. Understand what's happening mechanistically. There's a new narrative that's distracting you from your actual task. The goal is, can we just not assign extra meaning to the narrative in your head? Because that's what we're trying to do. I'm not saying don't allow the narrative to happen. It's going to happen. It's been happening forever, and it's going to take a long time. But if we stop really paying attention to that voice that's going, see, the coach doesn't think you're very good, and that's why they're coming over here, and he thinks that you're terrible at this, and he's singling you out. Maybe you don't belong here, like whatever it is. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but some degree of that. Or when you get to your 1 rep max, it's, you've never hit this number before. This is now getting dangerous. You shouldn't be doing this. If you don't hit this lift, you're going to be a failure. You've missed this lift 4 times before. We want to become aware of the voice and understand, is that voice a critic or a coach? And this is hard. So this is why I feel like the task is impossible. It's not impossible. It's hard. And what we want to do is, as often as possible, is first, not assign extra meaning. So don't go down the rabbit hole, and instead kind of constantly just try to, as much as possible, reframe. Just keep on trying to pull it back. You're going down a highway. You're doing great. You're doing well in your class. And then all of a sudden you see the coach start coming over, and you start going off on an exit ramp. What you're trying to do is reframe, get back on the highway, get back on the highway. And whether that's, there's a lot of tools there. Maybe it's detachment. Like, can I just sit behind it? Let the thoughts go, and I'm just going to sit behind it. You are not your thoughts. The thoughts are just a narrative in your head. You are something different. Can you just be in that moment? Or do you want to try and change the thoughts and just pull them back? Like, you're saying it's this, but I'm going to say it's this. And just kind of like play the game of like, fake it till you make it. Like, try to just say the positive things. Try to change it and say the positive things. Will that get better today? Nope. Will it be better tomorrow? Probably not. Will it be better next week? Maybe, but really, really unlikely. But doing this over the course of months and months and years, if you're intentional with it, will make a big, big difference. So what does that fall back to? Awareness. Here's the awareness. The intention, I'm going to try to do this no matter how hard it is. And the action, I'm doing this thing. We do that, and over the long course, it's one of those like aggregation of marginal gains. You're not going to see the difference next week. You're probably not going to see a difference in 3, 4, 5 months. But over the course of 3, 4, 5 years, it's going to be so unrecognizable from where you are to where you could have been.
Any recommendation to Haley about understanding the source of those? Again, let's just pick the coach walking up, does that help with the intention or the action?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I don't think that's, so that's psychology.
Mm-hmm.
Let's sit on the couch and tell me about your childhood and the problems you've had with
why does an authoritative figure make you nervous?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But I kind of like the Stutz model of that is like, I know why this is an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know I have problems with authority figures. I know my father was abusive. I know and now give me the tools to make it better. It's not a matter of just the knowing why this is happening. That doesn't fix anything.
Mm-hmm.
The fix is the intention of the action, the intention of the action, the intention of the action. And whether you're aware of the root cause or not, it's kind of like, it doesn't really matter to me. Maybe you push it down so far deep. You don't, my opinion is, you don't need to dig up the skeletons to clean up the closets.
Mm-hmm.
You might just be making more of a mess in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I really do like the Stutz, if you've read it, like The Tools, the book, The Tools.
It's also a great documentary on
Great documentary, exactly.
Called Stutz. Yep.
Yeah, it's not about just like, and the reason that Stutz created this whole thing was he literally had a patient on his couch going, listen, I know why I forget what the problem was. I know why I'm an alcoholic. I know why I have these issues. My dad was this, and this is the reason I grew up with this. And that, so don't just keep on telling me that you're trying to pull this up. I need the tools to move forward. Like, what are the things I need to, and every psychologist was like, well, let's just talk about your father.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about your father. It's like, I know it's my dad. I know that was the issue. So it's not to me about rooting it in that sense. It's about moving forward.
Yeah. Got it. Cool. Next question is in our eat category, and it's from Amy, Amy with an I, AMI. I will soon be attempting the Guinness World Record for the most burpees in 24 hours. What would you eat both in the days leading up and then during the event like this? And then I followed up with her because I was really curious. And so she just said, I did 4 hours as practice yesterday and just ate sweets, which I think might mean sweet potatoes. I'm not sure.
No, it's probably like gummy bears.
Or gummy bears. You're right. Yeah, you're right.
Sour
Sweets,
Patch Kids.
banana, brownies, to your point, which was okay for about 4 hours, but I know won't cut it for 24 hours. It's also quite hard to eat much because of the nature of a burpee. Just wondering if Ben has some ideas from his endurance days.
This is such a gnarly challenge. I don't like.
She's doing it in June, so shout out to Amy.
Okay. The world record is like 10,800 in a 24-hour period. Now, putting that in perspective, think about the people that did the open workouts, which was 7 minutes of burpees.
I remember that one.
That's 7 minutes. If you held 15 burpees a minute for 7 minutes, you were kind of like that's a good score. This pace is 8 burpees a minute for 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you can't just do 8 burpees a minute because you need to the point, you need to eat. And it's not like biking or running where you can eat while you're doing it. You have to stop to eat and you have to use the restroom.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more like doing 12 burpees a minute every minute not for 7 minutes like it was in that challenge. Not for 70 minutes, but for a very, very long time. This is crazy. It's an amazing feat to be taking on. So kudos to Amy for this. Okay, the challenge now, the nutrition. My suggestion number one would be the number one by far is a product like UCAN.
Mm-hmm.
This is like right in the wheelhouse. It's super easy digestible, carbohydrates that don't spike and don't have a crash. It's just this like low level. That would be the foundation of my nutrition on game day. I would also supplement with some additional salt, something like Element.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would also try to get in a little bit, if possible, of more like real food type stuff. That's going to be really, really hard.
Yeah.
And they're doing it with like the extra sweets and other stuff like that. So I would be looking to try to get in somewhere around 80 grams of carbohydrates an hour. That is a lot over a 24-hour period. You're not going to be able to do that. And I'm not suggesting doing that every single hour, but that would be my goal. Is I would be every 15, 20 minutes, I'd be drinking a multi-sourced drink, like UCAN with some salt, and then try to get a little bit of tiny little bits of protein in there as well. Whatever agrees with you at that point. If it's a little bit of protein powder in applesauce, that's something you can just squeeze in really quickly. Because if you're stopping and having a sandwich, peanut butter and jelly or something like that, you're stopping. And it's not like the other one where you get to travel forward because you can use your hands. Your hands are free. So something you can squeeze in quickly and keep moving. So I have my suggestion. You can element, and then like an applesauce and protein mixture. Maybe a little bit of raisins and sweet potatoes in there as well.
I'm sure Amy's figuring out this strategy, but just because we're talking about it and it's interesting, would you recommend, okay, we're gonna work for 4 hours, because that's what kind of, and then we take an hour off, and then maybe you can get some real food in without the necessity of then like getting back down on the ground and getting back up? Or is there some in your mind? Obviously, you've never done this, but is there some benefit to, let's just find that cadence and then just go with it? Or is it better to be like work rest over kind of an extended period of time?
I don't have the experience working with this type of a test to have enough insight into the strategy, the best strategy to get this thing done. And I think it might also depend on the athlete's sleep deprivation tolerance.
Truth. Yeah.
Right. Like, do you need to take?
Didn't even think about sleep. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You're starting at 7 a.m. and you don't finish until the next 7 a.m. Unless you beat the record in 23 hours.
That's true.
Right. But that's a huge component of this thing. So is it better for you to take the 1 25-minute cat nap and game that in? My gut, and it'd be cool to dig into this a little bit. My gut says you're going to try and create something sustainable.
Yeah. And
you're going to allow yourself a 5-minute break every hour. Right, to use the bathroom, get some a bite of something, stand up, talk to somebody, so it's not this constant up and down. That would be the way I would game plan this thing. It's almost like a 55 minutes on, 50 minutes off type thing.
Got it. All right, recover bucket from Liz. I'm a mom of 2 young kids, and I'm currently waking every night to pump breast milk for my 4-month-old son. If I don't pump during the night, I do not have enough milk to feed him throughout the day, or it's very close, and I'm too afraid to test the limits. And we had to use formula for my first son towards the end of his first year, as I did not supply enough milk. My question is, am I doing more damage to myself by interrupting my sleep nightly just to make this happen? I'm happy to make enough milk to provide him, as I believe the benefits are tremendous, and would love to avoid the ultra-processed formula if possible. I know a lot of people who don't have this option, and I'm thankful I get to pump for him every night. The routine currently takes about 15 to 20 minutes. I don't use my phone except for maybe my flashlight for a minute or two to find things. The brightest light is from the fridge, which is very brief. I find I have a hard time falling asleep immediately after. So in total, it's probably about 30 to 45 minutes of a disruption every single night.
It's Liz. I love this question. Like, it speaks to, she knows about not to get light exposure, like try to stay away from the formula, but there's this conundrum of like, I'm sacrificing my sleep, and we're supposed to be filling up our own cup, maybe like not with breast milk, but right. It's like, there's so much that speaks to like our community and our ethos in this question. So I love it. The thing that what the question's asking is, the thing that we've talked a lot about recently is we're trying to create balance and make sure we're chasing the right things. It's right into our introduction. We actually say, like, make sure we're chasing the right things. And this is a time in someone's life where one of these things is going to be slightly out of whack. That's going to we have to understand that it's not perfect, and it's going to happen. That's okay.
Yeah.
Right? It's okay to be losing 40 minutes of sleep of a night. to be able to provide this level of nutrition and head start for your 4-month-old is, in my opinion, worth it here. Now, there's some little things that we can work on with Liz, which is like, well, let's see if we can start to do some things that help us fall asleep even faster when we're done. So instead of this 40-minute process, we can make that a 25-minute process where you're getting to you're pumping, you're putting the stuff in the fridge, you go to lie back down. It's not 20 minutes of trying, but it's 4 minutes. Yep. And that'd be something like, something that my wife has found a lot of success with is like a yoga nidra script, body scan.
Got it.
It's like you're led through now focus on your fingertips.
Got it. So you go from like toes to the head.
Exactly.
And by the time you
focus on your right cheek, focus on your left cheek. And what it does is it just quiets the mind so much that it's sleep really quickly. So that would be my suggestion to Liz is like, let's see if we can get to sleep 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes sooner than we might have. That 20 minutes over the course is really, really big. Can we go to bed 15 minutes earlier than we normally have and set a new routine? We're going to and try to stay asleep for, it sounds like she's sleeping through the night with a 4-month-old. So there's a lot of upsides. Like you kind of go like, the other way you go is like most 4-month-olds, you're getting up in the middle of the night for this anyway.
Yeah. Yep.
So you're kind of playing with house money at this point.
Yep.
We just have to, here's like, we can talk about all these like little tools, tactics, all this stuff. But the big part of this is there's no such thing as perfect. There's going to be the trade-offs and you have to weigh and measure those trade-offs. And in my estimation, in this situation, the trade-off of the pumping and giving that really nutritious start to your child's life is worth it in a big way.
Got it. All right. Last question we've got is in our Connect bucket. Are there 3 or so factors of knowing your quote unquote love ladder is up against the right person? Which I love.
This is such a cute question. I love this.
So obviously we always talk about our is the ladder up against the right wall, right? Which is, I think, a Covey thing. But I love the slight reframe of love ladders and up against the right person.
I love that. Wouldn't that be nice? Like, you go, yes. If they're,
it's the same as your ladder up. Like there is a point at which you've got to kind of climb up it for a little while to recognize, oh, okay, nope, this isn't the one.
There is no answer to this, right? I can't go, and it's what makes it so special as well. Is like Patrick, tell me the moment you fell in love with your wife. Like it's when she made me that dinner. Like it's never gonna it's never
make sense,
right? It's not gonna make sense. It's not, and you can't do it as well.
Yeah.
Like what are the 3 things that you knew were the reason that you want to spend the rest of your life with that person? You're not. It's always going to be the dozens and dozens of intangibles that you can't put into words. And that's why it's one of the things we talk about a lot is you have to listen to your gut. If you try to rationalize it, if you try to solve it with the intellectual mind, you will never get there because it's not the job of the intellectual mind. There's a reason that you have kind of that 3-pronged approach to the brain, right? The dinosaur brain, the lizard brain, and the human brain. The human brain which is what this question's asking, is can I solve a dinosaur problem with a human intellectual thing?
Yeah.
You can't. And it would be so nice if you could, right? Like, yes, there's an XY matrix. And what you do is you plot out these 3 things. And if it's in this percentile, then this is a person you want to marry. That would be a really cool business. But it's not going to be the case.
Yeah, I think that, not that I've ever used them, but I would imagine that that's what the dating apps are claiming to be able to do, is to be able to.
It's like, so like you can get yourself in the neighborhood, right? Well, if you love hunting and your spouse is an animal rights activist, we're probably not going to see eye to eye on a lot of things, right? So there's the obvious ones. And the obvious ones but you don't need to sit right into a podcast for the obvious ones. Right. It's when you get down into the like really nitty gritty of the whole thing. And like, is this the right person? Is this the one? Like, I'm thinking like, this is like, do I want to spend the rest of like, we've been dating for 3 years. We've been living together for 6 months. this seems like it's going, is this the person? I'm not going to be able to answer that. And nobody else is going to be able to answer that for any one person.
Got it. All right. Sorry, whoever asked this question. We cannot give you the shortcut.
But it's such a cute love
question.
ladder. I love that.
Yeah, I love that too. All right. We will be back in just a minute for our workout where we are going to answer or chat about a question from Brad about struggles and when to know if we should move on or power through. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Landkind. Go to landkind.health and get your hands on one of the best productivity boosts I've ever tried. Landkind's signature product, LK10 Pure Salidroside, is clinically proven to enhance endurance and resiliency by improving your oxygen uptake and helping you stabilize your mood. It's pure bioactive material inspired by the adaptogenic plant rhodiola. By activating pathways in the power centers of your cells, you are able to naturally produce more energy, improve your stress response, and perform at your cognitive peak. The team at Landkind have been working on this for over 8 years, and it's been developed by leading scientists at MIT and Yale. I have personally loved this product since we discovered it a few months ago, and I highly recommend it to you if you are interested in getting more done and being happier about it while you do. If you want to see what I'm talking about, you can go get yourself 20% off your first order or subscription at landkind.health. Again, that's landkind.health. Just be sure to use the code EXCELLENCE at checkout. This week's episode is brought to you by Timeline Nutrition. Up until now, there haven't been many supplements on the market that support mitophagy, which is the process of flushing out old and damaged mitochondria. Head to timelinenutrition.com/excellence to learn about their signature product, MitoPure, which is the first product to offer a precise dose of urolithin A to upgrade mitochondria function, increase cellular energy, and improve muscle strength and endurance. The folks at Timeline Nutrition are not messing around. They've been working on this for a long time with 15 years of research, 11 human clinical trials, and over 50 patents filed. Through all that work, they've shown that 500 milligrams of urolithin A alone can significantly increase muscle mass and endurance without any other change in lifestyle. So if you're looking to upgrade your mitochondria, amongst other things, give Timeline Nutrition a try. Just head to timelinenutrition.com/excellence. Use the code EXCELLENCE. If you do, you will get yourself 10% off your first order of MitoPure. Again, that is TIMELINENUTRITION, timelinenutrition.com/excellence. Okay, we are back for our workout. This is a question from Brad. I am 26, own my own business, and train CrossFit 6 days a week. I have big goals with both my business and finances and with my physical performance. Lately, I've had some success with both, but also some quite big setbacks that have me questioning things. How do you know when it's time to quit or to reassess? Have you both had times in your life when you felt like this, and what would your advice be in a situation like mine? So obviously not a ton of detail in there, but I thought we could kind of take wave tops and make some assumptions.
Okay, so I'll take a wave top, and he says have both of you, right?
Yep.
Both of you.
Yeah, we can.
So I'll give a wave top, and I'll throw it to you to maybe share, like, have you experienced this? But we kind of touched on it with Liz and the breastfeeding in the middle of the night question. It's this understanding that everything in life is a trade-off. When you actually think about the totality of possibilities for life experiences, what you actually get to experience is this tiny little sliver. It's very, very little. Like, you could be, a sled dog racer in Alaska. You could go and live in the rainforest in Hawaii. You could go work in, help some tribes in Africa. You could be an entrepreneur. You could be this incredible fitness and understanding as you go towards one avenue, you're shutting the doors to an infinite number of different possibilities. This is at the root of this is just understanding that, I hope I'm reading the question right, that being an awesome Brad, like 26 and killing it, training in the gym 6 days a week, doing CrossFit, and a successful entrepreneur, really, really cool. But there's going to be setbacks along the way. There's no such thing as perfect. It's not a linear progression. It's going to be, I like that, the visualization of, the way you want it to happen in terms of the linear graph is this straight line, this horizontal line that goes very nice up and to the right.
Yep.
Exactly. That's what we want to happen. The way we think it happens is it goes up and flattens out. It goes up and flattens out like a staircase.
Yep.
That's the way we think it happens. Like, makes sense.
We're willing to accept that.
Little bit of gain and we plateau, little bit of gain, plateau. That's the way we think it happens. It doesn't happen that way at all.
No.
It looks more like an EKG, right? It's this up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. And over the course of, so it's one of those things like, don't overestimate what you can accomplish in a year. But I think you might be underestimating what you accomplish in a decade. Like, just change the trajectory a little bit. And when you change the trajectory or the scope of the timeline, all of a sudden these little bumps, like Brad's asking, like, how do you know when to call it quit? Well, dude, we're going to have the setbacks. These setbacks are a part of the process. But if you think that it's a step ladder where you're walking up the steps and if it goes down, you're like, whoa, what's wrong? Those can be kind of rock you a little bit. Just recognize this is by design. You're going to take one step forward, sometimes two steps back, hang out there for a long time, take another step forward, then maybe another step forward, and then you take 2 or 3 more steps back. And it's like, but again, over the course of a long enough timeline, we're making the progress along the way. Throwing it back to you, do you have anything that you've experienced that speaks to Brad's question?
Yeah, I mean, I think my entire adult life speaks to this question.
That's actually the right. That's like completely.
Yep.
And I think that Brad at 26 is coming to maybe the realization of this, because if you've done the career path that most people have, you were in college until you were 22. You have this 3-year period where you're trying to figure out what you want to do. And maybe Brad's been in this for 3 years, and now you're like, 3 years. The first 3 years are awesome. Right? It's all up and growth and creation. And all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, like, now step back. So I didn't want to rob that from you, but I want to highlight that most of your adult life probably falls into this pattern.
Yeah. And there is a degree to think, and I think about just kind of like 26 owning his own business. There is probably a version of his life that has maybe less of those EKG up and downs, but it might not be a life that he's particularly interested in, right? It might look like, I got a job at the place, and I know that if I put 2 years in, the trajectory is such that I'll make X amount percentage more, I'll be in this position. And so there's not that there isn't the up and down, but there's the illusion or the belief or the hope that, okay, I can see the road ahead and that road feels safer to me. And so I'm going to kind of take that one. And so of course, life is still going to give you the ups and downs, but in maybe one particular area of a person's life, they sort of say like, I don't want the ups and downs. And so I'm going to put myself on a road that I can see the next 5 years, because hundreds, thousands of people have already made this particular trek. And so it feels safer to me. But I think part of what Brad is finding is, as soon as you get yourself out of that track where it is pretty well trodden, there are more opportunities to trip and fall on your face, because there's nobody there to say, hey, watch out for that thing. Well, there's fewer people. Yep. There's certainly more people than when you were starting your gym or when I was kind of figuring out my stuff again faster. Now there's lots of entrepreneurs. Like, it's a normal and pretty common and well celebrated track. But even still, your version of it is at 26 is going to look a lot different than Brad's version at 26, because just context changed so much.
Yeah, I like that idea. And I want to pull on what you said a little bit, which is the illusion of the security, right? Because as an entrepreneur, from day to day, you have way less, I should say, across your career, you have way less security. Like, this is all rides on you. There's gonna be crazy ups and crazy downs. It's up to you to find that center and that balance to make sure that you're not being pulled along with the fluctuations of the business, because that is the nature of a business. It's going to fluctuate. But as a leader, it's important for the leader to stay centered and true to the vision and the path, and be a leader. If you are in a Fortune 500 company, you get an entry-level position, and you know from there you're going to go to the 3 rungs up from where you are. Then you become a a mid-level manager, then you become a supervisor, then you become a regional director, then you become a VP of X, Y, and Z, and then you become get in the C-suite, and then you try to eventually become the CEO. Like there's a career path, a career ladder that's existed forever. And as you said, the next 5 years looks a whole lot cleaner, but what you end I just want to it's not necessarily the case, because an entrepreneur, you have 100% control over the reason I fell in love with it. If I worked hard, I saw the benefits. Whereas when I was in corporate, if I worked hard, there wasn't really a whole lot difference than if I worked just hard enough to not get fired. There was no you put in, it's why I like the gym. You put in the efforts, you see the results. It's like my family. Like I put in the effort, I see the results. And when I was in corporate, if I put in the effort,
there was a disassociation from the input and the output.
Exactly.
Whereas in a lot to your point, like family, entrepreneurial efforts, even to a degree like the gym, because this is part of his thing, is also kind of this physical performance. There are things that have a greater correlation between my inputs and my outputs. And those are the places that tend to pull you out of that quote unquote kind of like common track. Again, and because there's an element of you could, if you work harder, you could succeed more.
Yep.
Or you could fail miserably.
Because and it's also what if you're working as hard as you can, but the company as a whole does? I mean, we've seen this over the last 20 years, most recently with Silicon Valley Bank. It doesn't. Sometimes these really powerful institutions fall, let alone the mid-sized business that you're working for, and trying to climb that ladder. So again, the idea behind this is every single thing in life has trade-offs. And what we, as people that are trying to chase this really special, meaningful life, is recognize that that's not a good or a bad thing. It's just a thing that we have to recognize. And as you're saying yes to this, you are by default saying no to an infinite number of other things. We have to accept that. And if I'm saying yes to living in the Northeast, being an entrepreneur, being a dad of 4, and running these few businesses, I'm saying no to all these
everything else.
And stop going, well, what if I lived in Montana? Should we move to San Diego? Imagine if I did this or that or this. Those are the distractions. Now, if it's planning, this is different. If it's planning to do those things, this is like when people talk about being present, it's so missed. That's not saying just be aloof and disconnected to anything in the future. That's not that at all. But what you don't want to do is not be here now because you're distracted by all these other infinite possibilities. You can instead go I'm going to move to Montana and I'm going to spend the next 6 months that's planning. There's absolutely nothing wrong with planning. If people didn't plan, humans wouldn't make it through the winter. We wouldn't have made it.
Right.
We would all have frozen to death with no food. So planning is a part of what we're supposed to do, but there's a difference between being planning and being distracted. And also just kind of unrealistic and disassociated, where I kind of wish for something else and not accepting our place where we actually are. That goes to the ups and downs as well. When as Brad, as an entrepreneur and or as an athlete, because he says he's experienced success in that as well. You get injured. You haven't PR'd in a long time. Your peers start beating you. Or as an entrepreneur, your competition rises up. Your best employee leaves to start a competing company. We have to recognize that that is a natural part of existing on planet Earth. It's not right, wrong, good, bad. It's just a natural thing. And the best that we can roll with this in real time and not assign all the extra meaning to it, but instead be productive in producing a more meaningful today. That's what we want to bring every single time. So if the question is, when do I know when to quit? When do I know when to pivot and change different tracks? it's not at the first sign of coming up short or failure or discomfort or not lining up with expectations. It's not that at all. It's when you've taken enough of the data points and figured out what is the thing that makes the most sense for me to plan this thing in the best possible way.
Yeah, one thing I've thought about before, and it feels like it fits right along with what you're saying, is there's always points in our lives, our businesses, our performances, whatever, where we're real high. Things are going really well. And then there are going to be points to what we've been talking about. There's going to be points where we dip below what we're comfortable with, right? Things slow down, you get injured, et cetera. And in both of those points, the top and the bottom, those are actually both really bad times to make any big decisions because you're not seeing the full picture. You're seeing everything's going amazing. It's time to it's time to buy the house that's twice as big because it's always going to be this good. Right. And at the same time, things have never been this bad. It's time to sell the house and close the business, right? I mean, of course, both of those could be true, but the chances of you seeing it at that moment and making a smart,
I like that a lot,
accurate decision is probably less than, okay, let's get back to some equilibrium where things aren't great, but things are going fine. Things aren't terrible, but things are, and live there for a while and then say, okay, is this like, should I stop?
Yeah.
Should I keep going?
I really like that. And even don't necessarily need to wait for the external circumstances to fall back to center. Like, yeah, your business is booming, doing awesome, amazing. You don't have to wait for your business not to be doing awesome to make decisions.
Right.
You stay centered.
Yeah, that's actually a much better point. Yeah.
Like the outside world.
Exactly. 100%.
So it's like, this is like right at the root of what
I just said 100%. See, I think I'm the one who says 100%.
There it is.
Okay. Anyways, I just want to interrupt.
It's not, this is like at the root of chasing excellence.
Yeah.
We don't want to be influenced by the external circumstances. We can stay centered. The world is going to have its ups and its down. There's going to be, I like this saying of, when there's a saying for people that are trying to summit Everest, which is, it's just another cold, dark night on the side of Everest. Meaning like, what did you expect?
Right.
Like, did you expect it not to be cold and dark and it to be nighttime? It's like, it's part of the journey. It's just another cold, dark night on the side of Everest. Like when the bad times come, like the bad times are going to be there. And then yes, every now and then when you're climbing Everest, guess what? It's sunny and 35 degrees. And that's amazing, right? Like, cool. Like you don't necessarily need to plan for those times, but you also don't need to wait until it's, 75 below and, a storm with 50-mile-an-hour winds to figure out what to do. It's, you just got to recognize that I'm not going to be internally, I'm not going to be swayed out of my center. And when, you're an entrepreneur like Brad is, and your best employee, this has happened to me a number of times, right? Your best employee goes, I'm leaving. Like you don't need to freak out. Like that's going to happen. It's just another cold, dark night on the side of Everest.
It makes me think of, I was just listening to, I mentioned this to you last time I saw you, but Alex Hormozy, who's an entrepreneur and sort of blowing up in kind of the space of like advice, really, specifically business. But he was on Chris Williamson's Modern Wisdom show recently, so I was listening to it. And Alex is really kind of a blue flame thinker, and he was telling a story about when he was
blue flame thinker.
Yeah, I stole that term from somebody named Scott Galloway. And he was telling a story about when he was running a fraternity. He was like the president of a fraternity, and I'll skip over most of it. But his point was, there always gets a point with a new pledge class where they're a couple weeks into like the initial phases of being part of this fraternity. And basically they all bandy together and say, this is too hard. We can't do it. We're going to quit. And so Alex's job at that point was, and what the story he was telling, which was really interesting, was what he effectively told them was, anybody here, like, hey, guys, did anybody here think that this was going to be easy? And of course, nobody said nobody thought it was going to be easy. They all knew intellectually when they went into this, like, okay, this is going to be hard, but I'm ready for this I'm ready for hard. I'm ready for the thing that comes on the other. And what Alex said to them was, guys, this is what hard feels like. And when he told them that, when they recognized that, they, in his telling, they kind of took a collective sigh of relief, because what happened was their expectations and the reality got closer. And when they were like, oh, this is what I actually signed up for, it actually wasn't scary anymore. It was hard, but it wasn't so hard that it felt impossible anymore, because that's actually just what they didn't recognize, that that's what it was that they were signing up for. The reality was harder than their own expectations. And so when they aligned those things, they were able to do the hard thing longer, or they were able to continue to do the hard thing. And so what I think about a little bit with this question is the setback. He's 26, and I don't want to say like, oh, you got your whole life, but you do. And there is a degree to which you don't know what hard is until you recognize it. And then once you recognize it, you can say, oh, yeah, this is what it feels like to try to make the CrossFit Games. This is what it feels like to try to run a business. This is what it feels like to
keep a business alive during a pandemic.
Exactly. Or not take the job as a lawyer like I thought I was. Like
yeah, right.
It's not the ups and downs. That's actually what you're signing up for, to your point of kind of where we started this thing. And once you can start to recognize that, you can start to sit in it a little bit longer. You can say, oh, okay, well, it stinks. It's not fun. But in many ways, this was the unavoidable part. And now that I know that it's unavoidable, maybe I can see myself through it a little bit better.
You know what I like about that a lot is, first of all, I really love like, this is what hard looks like.
Yep.
What did you expect? I love the what did you expect. That doesn't need to be exclusive to an athlete or an entrepreneur.
Mm-mm. To this point, these were
human. No, it doesn't need to be it doesn't need to be to you're going through an initiation.
A gauntlet of some kind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Life.
Mm-hmm.
This is what life feels like.
Yep.
What did you expect?
Mm-hmm.
We all have this expectation in our we all have this expectation that life is supposed to be easy. And if we do enough hard work now, at some point we've earned easy. That's not coming. What did you expect? This is what life looks like. And you know what? You wouldn't want the other way. Because without the other way, it's not human, right? It's what some people view heaven. And we've had this conversation before, but like, what if heaven is boring? Right?
Right.
Like, or whatever that thing is. Like, if you don't believe in heaven, whatever that retirement, right?
Yeah.
Where there is nothing. It's like you're just like literally sitting on a beach with a pina colada in your hand from 10 in the morning till 10 at night, and just like the waves lapping at your feet. People go, "Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing." It's like, okay, for like day after day after day, and there's no like, this is life. What did you expect?
Last thing, Kara Lawson, is that her name? The Duke basketball coach? I think that's her name. She has this amazing line of like, the point isn't, to your point, like, it's not like you do this thing and then it gets easier. The point, the work, the effort, it's all so that you can learn how to handle hard better. That's it.
Handle hard better.
It's such an amazing reframe.
Handle hard better.
And that's ultimately, that's what success define success in many different ways, but to a degree, like, that's a definition of success.
So I have up on my board, you've seen it in my whiteboard in my office, success is the peace of mind that you have the ability to overcome challenges. That's, if you have the ability to overcome challenges, like, what's gonna get you off center?
Right.
Is you have peace of mind. I know that, like, any sort of financial thing that comes down the pipeline, I'm going to be able to handle that. I know that any sort of illness to my family, I'm going to be able to handle that. I know that any sort of catastrophe, chaos, setback, I'm going to be able, I have peace of mind that that's going to work out just fine. Yep. If there's one thing that we should all be chasing, it's success. And I don't know if there necessarily could be a better definition of success than a constant state. I'm going to say that wrong, but a constant peace of mind as a state of mind. I'm messing that up really bad.
We'll clean it up.
Peace of mind as your default state, right? Like that's just where you
returning
are.
the speed at which you return to center.
Love that. And that comes down to, can you handle hard better?
Yep.
Like it's so, and what we should not have an expectation is peace of mind all the time.
Right.
Right. That's not what it is. Like that's not success. It's, to your point, can you handle hard better so you can return to, can you handle hard better so you can return to center faster? Mm-hmm. That's what we should be chasing.
Maybe the metaphor is, when you're meditating, one of the things that you're taught is a thought happens. And then the idea is like, recognize the thought, let the thought go, bring yourself back to, if it's your breath, whatever. And to a degree, that's kind of what it is. Mm-hmm. It's like thoughts are coming, like that. They're just going to happen. They're the expectation. Things are going to go wrong.
The goal is not to stop the thoughts.
Exactly. The goal is not to stop things from getting difficult.
Right.
The goal is to recognize in those moments that I can bring myself back down to central. I can bring myself back to that peace of mind. That ultimately is what we're trying to do. Not to make them go away, not to prevent them from happening again, but simply to recognize that our job is to bring ourselves back to that center.
Amen.
Cool. All right. Thank you, Brad. I hope we helped. And good luck to you in both your business and your performance goals. Ben and I are going to be back in just a minute with a very cool, different shout out and cool down. So stay tuned. Big ol' thanks to our sponsor this week, Miracle Made Sheets. Head to trymiracle.com/excellence to get yourself a set of 5-star hotel quality sheets at a fraction of the price you would normally pay. Here is something that I don't like to think about. Traditional bed sheets are basically like a nightclub for the kind of bacteria that can lead to acne, allergies, poor sleep, and quite frankly, the ickies. But fret not. Miracle Made offers a whole line of self-cleaning, eco-friendly bedding that prevents 99% of this bacteria and demands nearly 3 times less laundry as a result. Miracle Made sheets are comfortable, self-cooling, self-cleaning, and they will whisper softly to you as you drift off to sleep every night. One of those things isn't true. If you want to see for yourself, go to trymiracle.com/excellence to get yours. You'll not only get 40% off by using the code excellence, they'll even throw in 3 free towels. They're so confident you'll love these sheets that they offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. So head to trymiracle.com/excellence and be sure to use the code excellence to save yourself 40%. All right, we're back. We have never done this before, but I'm excited to, maybe this is the first of many. This would be cool. But we got a voice memo from, her name is Regina Stump. She emailed me this voice memo. And as soon as I listened to it, I sent it to Ben. I said, this is one of the coolest things we've gotten. And so Regina has given us the permission kindly to share it with you. So we're not going to give too much context. It's about 10 minutes long. We highly recommend you listen to it. It is very much within the ethos of Chasing Excellence. So we thank Regina for it.
Yeah. Regina, you're amazing. And thank you very much for sending this in. It means a lot to be able to hear how these little conversations that Patrick and I have resonate with people like yourself. So thank you.
All right, let's get into Regina's.
Hello, Patrick. Hello, Ben. This may seem kind of weird, but I feel as though all of your listeners get the privilege to listen to your voice, and the best that we can do is type out a question. So I wanted to submit a voice message to you as just kind of a response, and I think it was an interesting reflection based upon one of the last podcasts that you just posted. And this was the one where you all talked about just the idea of our souls, that we're here on this planet as humans for the opportunity to experience emotion. And I thought that was fascinating because I never considered life in that way. That we actually are spiritually eternals, but we're here as humans for the chance to experience happiness, joy, sorrow, pain. And I am a spiritual person, and looking at life in that kind of prism was really neat. And I just want to share a couple of my personal experiences that just kind of made me ponder that whole concept. So I experienced an accident a couple years ago where I almost lost my life. And I tumbled and fell 50 to 60 feet during some rock fall when I was at 13,000 feet on a peak in Colorado, and I call it a pinball ragdoll moment when I was just at the mercy of gravity and super sharp, um, unforgiving boulders. And I felt my body just thudding and whipping from rock to rock. And in that moment of tumbling and falling, I thought two things. One, it's going to go black. I'm going to see Jesus real soon. This is how people die. But the second thought that I had was super physical. I thought, Reg, get your feet under you. Get your feet under you. If I could figure out that my feet were under me, then I knew which direction up was. But in that moment that felt like a million years and yet, a fraction of a second, I found myself stopped. I had to open my eyes and had my knees tucked into my chest. And I was sitting on this flat slab of rock, and I looked over the edge of this little slab of rock down to a 1,000-foot drop into a merciless gully. And I knew that there was definitely some damage to my physical self. I thought I had to be paralyzed at least. So I tried to straighten my back, and I actually could do that. And then I stretched out my left leg, and my hip, my knee, ankle, all good. Stretched out my right, same thing. I knew that there was some pretty deep laceration on my back. My back was on fire. My right arm, right shoulder, everything was good. I noticed, though, that I definitely had a lot of pain on my right side. Later, fractured a rib. I had a broken tailbone. I'm not sure if it was one place or multiple places. I don't know. But then I went to stretch out my left arm, and I realized that my hand was sitting where my wrist was. And I don't know how it wasn't an open fracture, but thankfully it was closed. There was no, blood or anything open. But my hand definitely looked like it was an S, essentially. Had a deep cut on my eye that was bleeding, but that stopped rather quickly. And after assessing the situation, my climbing partner, he and I decided that we were either going to wait 7 to 8 hours for a search and rescue team to come get us up there, or we were going to climb out. And I couldn't just sit there and let my body go into shock. I had to move. So, with my partner's really awesome ability to help guide, he helped guide us back down that slope. And after a couple miles, we were able to make it to actual, hiking terrain again, and that was incredible. We got down to our cars about 7 hours later. It was a 7-mile trek. And because we both had our cars at this trailhead and we didn't have any cell service, we both had to drive to the emergency room. Once I got there, he was able to leave me and keep going with his life, and I sought treatment. Had to drive to another emergency center at a town that wasn't a teeny tiny ski town, and I got surgery the next day, and everything ended up being okay. But I feel that physical pain and that physical adventure really wasn't, I don't remember really the pain, to be honest. It wasn't physical pain that really got to me. And I think about other things in my life that were more so emotionally based. For example, I'm a soccer national champion. I won two titles my freshman year and sophomore year. I went on to play semi-pro soccer. I've competed at a very high level with the obstacle course races within the Spartan series, winning a couple races, top podiums, and running ultramarathons and 50 miles. And I was in officer candidate school for the Marine Corps. Lots of incredible things, including finishing the 58 Colorado 14,000-foot peaks in under 3 years. As soon as I moved here, I fell in love with those mountains. But all those great heights and accomplishments and achievements, as amazing as they were just fleeting moments of happiness. Those aren't things that really have a huge, incredible, lasting impact on my life to make me live a different way. The things, honestly, that make me live in a way of mindfulness are the things that cause the most hurt and the most pain. Ever since getting my grad degree and really experiencing the challenges of life in terms of having hopes and dreams dashed, having put in a ton of effort and time and investment into something, and having the trap door of expectations just drop out from under you. Or I have had my ladder up against the wrong wall, and I look behind me and I realize the wall I should have been climbing is not the one that I'm on. It's those experiences where I get to feel almost like I let myself down. Feelings of dissatisfaction, feelings of disappointment, frustration, annoyance, some things that were completely outside of my control, which caused those events to happen. When expectations and reality didn't meet, that's when I feel like my heart was tugged the most. And those are the emotions that have caused me to act in different ways, to act despite fear and really embrace what courage means, and still in the pursuit of excellence and all the things that are controllables, effort and response, attitude. And I think about going back to your topic of, if we're here on this planet to have the opportunity to experience those things, those feelings, then why do so many of us walk around in the desperate attempt to become numb or choose to be numb? In the moments of my deepest hurts and deepest pains, those were very real feelings, but I could have chosen different ones. Feelings are absolutely 100% real, as our thoughts, but our thoughts can manipulate our feelings. As soon as you see something or tangibly feel something, your emotional feelings can change. And if they're so fleeting, and if we're here on this planet in order to feel, why are some of us so quick to negate that opportunity and not? And I thought about that, and I thought about the privilege of what it means to feel. But even what a greater privilege to exercise the independent free will to take a feeling, put it to the test against a thought, and change it if we so desire based upon an outcome that we want, which is evidenced by our behavior and our actions. I've really, really enjoyed that talk that you all put out, and yeah, I also just want to thank you for your amazing content and how you challenge not only just athletes, but everyone who listens to your podcast, because the things that you talk about, the concepts you bring up, are universal. And I think if we actually take a moment to put some of them into practice and become just a little bit better every day, we make ourselves better and each other better. And that's a ton of impact that you will have. So thank you for that.
All right, my friends, thank you to Regina again. Thank you to you for listening to the show. Thank you for your ratings and your reviews. Thank you for sharing the show with your friends. It does help new folks come into the community, have these conversations with us. So we really appreciate it. Ben and I are going to be back next week for another episode of Chasing Excellence.